Let's dive into the nitty-gritty.
It Could Happen to You was released on July 29th, 1994, right in the middle of summer. I don't know. Don't rom-coms usually come out kind of in the fall, spring?
Yeah. Or around Valentine's.
Around Valentine's, yeah. Had a budget of $20 million, but made $47.7 million. So made its budget back and doubled it. I feel like 90s math, that kind of works. Not a huge hit, but not a huge bomb or anything like that. This was directed by Andrew Bergman, who is responsible for writing Blazing Saddles, but somehow came out with the most bland rom-com you've ever seen.
I thought it was weird when Nick was like, "Where are all the white women at?"
To be fair, he did not write this movie, so he also wrote The In-Laws, which was great, Fletch, and Soap Dish. Back in the day. Also wrote and directed The Freshman, which we've talked about in the past, that kind of like pseudo Godfather spinoff with Matthew Broderick and Marlon Brando. And he also directed, I think he wrote as well, Honeymoon in Vegas. So we'll be talking about him again soon. And then he also wrote and directed Striptease, which I wish we could talk about, but unfortunately we can't. We have to talk about this instead. This was written by Jane Anderson, who wrote on shows such as The Facts of Life and The Wonder Years. Did a lot of made-for-TV movies, which really tracks with this film. I
was going to say, yeah.
This is like if a made-for-TV romantic Hallmark Channel movie had a bigger budget.
Feeling like a Lifetime movie.
Yeah.
Or Hallmark in this days, yeah.
Yeah. And then more recently, she wrote a little bit on Mad Men, and then she got into directing and producing a little bit. So she's been more behind the scenes these days. This was shot by our old pal, Caleb Deschanel. So I actually say his name right this time, who we previously talked about on National Treasure. But to refresh your memory, he worked a bit with David Lynch on Twin Peaks, has been nominated for 6 Academy Awards for cinematography. Shot The Passion of the Christ. Thank God we're getting a sequel to that soon.
Hell yeah, dude, I'm stoked. Literally. Thank God.
Yeah. Shot The Natural with Robert Redford. He did the live-action Lion King with Jon Favreau. Oh, and he's also responsible for creating Emily and Zooey Deschanel, for better or worse. Depending on which camp you're in.
They're funny.
Edited by Barry Malkin, who we also previously talked about on Peggy Sue Got Married. And we'll also be talking about him a bunch since he and Nick's paths have crossed quite a bit. He was a Coppola regular back in the 80s especially. Also worked on the last 2 Godfathers, not the first one, but the second and third. And has worked on with Bergman quite a bit. So we'll actually be talking about him again on Honeymoon in Vegas, which I think was the movie that Nick had done just before this one with Andrew Bergman. He has since passed, but had a pretty amazing career. Thankfully, he wasn't around to see Megalopolis. Maybe he could have made sense of that thing.
I don't know, dude. He tried to cobble together Godfather 3 and still couldn't.
That's true. That's true. But I would say Godfather 3 is a fucking masterpiece in comparison to Megalopolis.
Maybe that's why Coppola did that film, so people won't be so harsh on Godfather 3 now.
I would say Coppola's career actually seems to have gone in the toilet when Andrew Bergman stopped working, or when Barry Malkin stopped working with them. So maybe that was the secret sauce.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
It's like Kevin Smith. Like without Scott Mosier, his career has been absolutely terrible. But with Scott Mosier, he made a lot of great things that were enjoyable, but not much sense. And then music by another guy that we've talked about a bunch, the great Carter Burwell. Who we talked about on Raising Arizona and Adaptation, which are 2 of the best things that Nick Cage has ever worked on. He's a Coen Brothers regular, worked on a ton of their projects, going back to their very first film, Blood Simple. I mean, how do you get out the gates with Carter Burwell, and you had Frances McDermott in the movie. Like they had an amazing start to their career and just never slowed down. Though I don't know, this weird thing where they've kind of split and they're not doing films together anymore. They're kind of doing films. But Carter Burwell has actually worked on the last two Joel solo and Ethan solo films. So he's still very much in their camp. 50 years later, almost 50 years later, Jesus Christ. God. I think Blood Simple was like 1981. So yeah, it's getting there. He is actually working on a film right now directed by Aziz Ansari, which I don't know much about Aziz's directing abilities, but the cast is pretty amazing. And then you got people like Carter Burwell coming on, so I would assume that it's gonna be good. I don't know. It's called Good Fortune.
He did that show on Netflix that got a lot of critical acclaim.
Yeah,
I can't remember what it was called. So
yeah, I can't remember. I saw a few episodes of that. It was pretty solid. So it's like he's recovered from whatever Me Too thing was happening with him. I don't remember at this point. There was so many. If you work in Hollywood, you're probably garbage. That's all I'm saying.
Oh my god, dude.
I really hope that we don't find out any horrible shit about Cage before the show is over.
I think all his horrible shit's already hit the fucking newsstands.
True. Yeah. Ratings. This has a 73% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is pretty high. Higher than I would expect. I think I talked about it at the end of our last episode, but like I remembered really liking this movie the first time around, and now as a, I guess, jaded middle-aged man, I just was like, I was just so bored and so like over the just cliche tropes and stuff. I don't know. We'll get into it, but 6.2 out of 10 on 37 reviews. The audience score, though, is a 54%, which is substantially lower than the Rotten Tomatoes score. I guess if you go by the 6 or above, I mean, that's still like 6 or above is 73% of the people who reviewed it, which is kind of surprising that critics would not shit on this movie.
I think it's a film of its era. I think if we went back and watched, I think if we go back and watch a lot of movies at that time, would kind of think the same thing. Like all these all the rom-coms from that time. Not great, but they were great for the time.
Yeah, they're feel-good movies, I guess. I don't know. I didn't feel good when Rosie Perez was speaking. Metacritic score 64%. So kind of right there with the Rotten Tomatoes score. Letterboxd was a 3.1 out of 5, which is one of the higher scores that we've seen so far this season on Letterboxd. IMDb is a 6.4, which is, again, that's higher than the Rotten Tomatoes score. And it did get a cinema score. Do you want to guess it?
B.
Nigel?
B.
B+. So better than that, yeah. A little better, yeah. If you're coming to the movie and you're expecting it to be a rom-com, you would probably give it pretty high scores. But B+ is actually kind of low for if you were going out of your way to come see a rom-com. This is like, you couldn't get much more cookie-cutter, cliche rom-com than this.
Maybe that's why it's kind of low.
Maybe it was just people reacting to Rosie Perez's annoying-ass voice the entire time.